Thank you.
All right. So Hadar is a U.S. citizen, full-time property investor, and trader. He has been investing in real estate for over a decade, starting as a licensed real estate agent in Israel before immigrating to New Zealand in 2003. He invests in multifamily and commercial real estate and is a regular contributor to the New Zealand Property Investor magazine. In the U.S., he focuses on multifamily apartment buildings that have value-add upside potential. He's a leading mastermind facilitator with MIHmastermind.com. Hadar, thank you so much for being with us and sharing with us here at the Multifamily Investor Nation Summit. Take it away.
Thank you, Dan. Let's get into it. So yes, like I said, I will cover multifamily investing from out of states and overseas. We will start with the mindset, how to research a market, choose a market, building your team, and what to do and not to do in the market. Please, if you have any pen to paper or anything to scribe some notes, that's the time to get ready and do it. Let's see what's going on here. Here we go. So I'm a US citizen. I've been investing in New Zealand for well over a decade and in the US for about 3 years. I have experience of investing in residential and commercial real estate. As you can see on the left picture, this is a multifamily investment property, and underneath it's a commercial strip mall, which I purchased, and there are 4 shops and another residential unit at the top. I only buy properties which has value-add potential to them. In that particular commercial property, for example, we had the opportunity to negotiate the rent. We negotiate triple net leases, strengthen the leases for long leases. We can build another story on the top. We increase the rent and put billboard advertising on the side to generate some additional income. I specialize in value-add opportunities. I've been doing that for well over a decade. On the left corner, you can see an apartment that is a part of a complex we purchased in the US. We completely rehabbed this unit into a very good standard. And on the left, you can see a property which it's a house. I'm still flipping houses. It's one of my cash flow strategies. I regularly flipping houses from out of area. It's a story that how do I started investing in real estate? People always ask me, how do I start investing in real estate? And pretty much when I immigrated to New Zealand from Israel about early 2000, I started working in a vineyard and the orchard as a manual labor. And at the same time, I've been educating myself, doing this repetitive job, working with the headphone, listening to CDs. Back then, we didn't have any podcasts or anything like that. And gradually, I got enough education to start wholesaling. So back in the day, I was wholesaling, flipping houses with contemporaneous double closing and also doing some assignments. Gradually, I built enough momentum and enough down payment to start building my own buy and hold portfolio. And that's how I decided to pursue real estate. Got full-time. I got experience with subdivision. I've done some condo conversion. If you don't know what condo conversion is, condo conversion is basically when you take an apartment building and you separate the apartments into separate units, separate titles, and you can appraise them separately and also sell them separately. Typically, it pushes the value significantly higher because the apartment building is appraised on a comparable sale method in opposed to the income approach. I'm a certified project manager with Prince 2, and I have extensive understanding of underwriting of investment properties. For those of you who are not in the US or not familiar with the term underwriting, that's pretty much relating to analyzing deals. Let's get into it. Live where you want to live and invest where the numbers make sense. This is a quote by Robert Helms from the Real Estate Guys. Very, very true. Why do I started investing in out of area? I always been investing out of area, also in New Zealand and also in the US, of course. My markets in New Zealand are markets which currently do not offer a great rent to price ratios. So I've been investing here for a while. I built a portfolio. The properties are cash flowing great, but now I got to the point that they have a lot of equity, but to keep building the portfolio, it is challenging. Because of the market being matured, they became, for example, Auckland mainly, which is the biggest market in New Zealand where I invest in, is a market that is more similar to the San Francisco, LA, Boston, Seattle, and New York market. It's become an appreciation market. So as an American citizen, I decided to expand my portfolio and keep looking further into the US, which is where I'm currently focusing. People asking me how do I manage to invest in real estate from New Zealand. So I always tell a joke that in the night I transfer myself to Inspector Gadget kind of personality, and I'm propellering myself from place to place. I got very long arms and are able to deal with that this way. So really, it's a matter of mindset. Mindset is everything. It's really important to have a clear mind and clear goals and a good why. This real estate business, it's not a get rich quick business. It's a process that takes many years to establish, and there are a lot of frustrations and challenges to go through the process. So if you are in a position to keep yourself in a good mindset, stay focused, persistent, and patient, you will be achieving your goal and make it happen. Having a very strong why is very, very important. For example, if you have a goal to spend more time with your family, to have the freedom to travel or contribute to a charity that is dear to your heart, or perhaps you have a monthly income goal. Maybe you want to have 20,000 a month passive income coming in. So if you keep that why as a front of mind, it will be your driving force. It's very, very important to have a strong why. We really have to focus on physical and mental well-being. For example, I have a morning routine, which I do most mornings, is meditation. And following to that, I do physical exercise. So whether it's meditation, praying, scribing, anything that keeps you well and gives you a good start for the day, it's very, very important. I would like to mention that if you are a non-US citizen or even a beginning investor in the US, you may want to consider starting first as a passive investor in an investment partnership or syndication. There is an opportunity to learn, which you could learn a lot from being a passive investor. A lot of syndicators offer a monthly webinar, which will show you how the deal is going, keep you updated with also quarterly or sometime by every 2 months kind of reports. So it's a great way to start as a passive, maybe perhaps while you're educating yourself a bit more about multifamily. It will take time to find your first deal. It could take anything from 6 months to even 18 months to find your first deal once you start looking. So let's jump into research and choosing a market. When you research the market, the first thing you should look at as a market is, does the market have any of the big box retailers like Amazon, any large manufacturing, healthcare services, Whole Foods, IKEA, or Chick-fil-A, or for example, Best Buy? This company already spends millions of dollars on research before they move into the country, into a specific market, or even if they choose to expand within the market. So if you see any of these companies in a market, it's a good starting point. And if you hear on expansions in a specific market, this is even a better sign, because you will be in a market where there is more job opportunities coming in and job growth. It's very, very important for us as landlords. You can look if you see any Fortune 500 company or even Fortune 1000 companies in the market. This is another very good indication. They have a wide base of employees typically in the market. And we like to see market with, as a rule of thumb, that have a job growth of 2% per annum for 2 years minimum. We like to see an unemployment rate of below 5%, taking in account that now in the US, the unemployment rate is about 3.6% on average. We are now still experiencing a strong economy. We had an expansion for almost 10 years now, which is the longest expansion since a long time ago. I think since the Great Depression, from memory. And we always take that in account, that now is good times, but we need to always keep an eye on what's going on. Back in 2010, the unemployment rate was an average in the US of 9%. So we're certainly in a good time now. Research online for job and population growth. You can use websites like bestplaces.net, citydata.com, or another great website that I liked is Indeed. Indeed.com is a very good website. You could actually see what job offering or job openings are available in specific market today. So for example, if you jump on Indeed.com today and you type in Dallas-Fort Worth, or Dallas, Texas, let's say, you will see that there are 66,000 job opportunities advertised over there. So this is a very good website to keep on track on what's going on in a specific job market. You might jump on you might type in another town or city, and you will see that there is maybe 5,000 jobs. So that will give you a good indication. Another great website is departmentsofnumbers.com/employment/metros. This website allows you to see the metros and what kind of growth they had in a specific time frame. For example, Jacksonville, Florida, last year had 11,000 jobs added to them. So it's a very good, those two websites are very good to see, especially when it comes to employments. I'd like to mention that Best Places and City Data also have information about household incomes and median house prices, which is another indication that we like to use when we are looking into a market. We say that every single white-collar job can create between 2 to 5 blue-collar jobs. We like to see blue-collar jobs as investors in C&B multifamily apartment buildings. Those are our tenants, and those are the typical people that will be paying the rents. No matter what you do as investors, you want to make sure that you stay away from a single employer's town. Those towns are very dangerous, because if you have, for example, a town with a big lumber or timber mill, if you want, processing plant, and they go kaput, they go basically out of business, then you will be in a situation that your tenants don't have anywhere to work, and they're not going to be able to pay your bill, and people may even be moving out of town. So stay away from single employment town, whatever you can do. Population growth equal to rent growth. We always like to monitor the population trends. What is the current and past population movement in specific neighborhood, market, or sub-markets? We like to invest in markets where the demographics of families that rent. These people will be typically families that will be living in an apartment. If it's a 2-bedroom apartment, you might see a couple with 1 or 2 kids. If it's a 1-bedroom apartment, you might see a couple without kids, or just a young professional or single person. A great place to research a market and to get some good feedback about the market is to contact your local chamber of commerce. Local chamber of commerce is a local body that involved with the business community. I rang local chamber of commerce for a market that I was researching recently, and they will be great to share with you about the path of progress. You want to find out where is the path of progress in a specific market. You want to know which part of the city are going through gentrification. whether the city is spending money on upgrading some amenities in specific pockets, better roading, better schools, maybe they're adding an intersection somewhere to have better commuting. This is very, very important. On top of that, they will be able to share with you which businesses are expanding and which businesses are coming to town as well. The guy that I spoke with was very helpful, and he was basically encouraged me to join the chamber, which is something that you would potentially do if you want, once you have, enough units in the market and you started to grow a portfolio in the market. We like to see a median house price of $90,000 or higher. The reason is that that gives a good balance between people who would be homeowners and people who would be renters. Not everybody can afford a house for $90,000. So having this kind of a price line in terms of median house will allow for people to become renters in opposed to buying a house. So those people will prefer to rent in opposed to buying their own house. We like to see income of $50,000 household income. Household income means basically could be a couple that earning that together. The reason is that it allows for enough buffer there to pay the rent. Basically, we want to see an income which is at least 3 times the rent. So, for example, if you have a tenant which is paying $1,000 a month, we want to see a minimum income of $3,000 a month or $36,000 per year. Some of the markets that I'm looking at and actively investing in are around the 40, 45,000. It's still fine, but the benchmark that we aspire to be in, whether in the sub market or suburbs within the market, is around the 45 to 50 today. It's very, very important to watch out for oversupply. Keep eye on new construction versus absorption. Oversupply of apartment equals to a low absorption rate, equals to leads to concessions and lower rents. It's something that could significantly affect the market in terms of softening rents, especially now where we are in the market that there was a lot of building boom. A lot of markets like Nashville, Tennessee, for example, built a lot of units, and there is a situation there of reaching an oversupply. So we can start seeing a lot of concessions in the market. A-type properties are being discounted, or the owners offering concessions for tenants, which reduces the rent through the chain down to the B-type and the C-type. Saying that if you have a good product, C or B-type, which is competitive, you will be able to weather the storm. That's why we always like to keep track on what the competition is doing as well and what they're offering. Another market like Dallas, for example, has a good amount of new construction. There are some signs of softening over there with rents, but because of a very strong population growth and job growth, which is probably going to continue, we can see that the softness is not going to be long-lived. It's probably going to last maybe for a year or so, maybe a little bit longer. But the job growth and the population growth will probably boost things up. So you really need to get to know the market and look into that. One of the best way to keep up to date with the new construction and absorptions is through brokers. A lot of the big agencies, they offer market updates, quarterly market updates, and they will share with you about what the market is doing, whether the new construction or absorption is negative or positive, or whether the sales in terms of what kind of properties sold and the cap rates and the price per unit. You can also jump on LoopNet and see over there, there's a lot of properties in specific market, if it's your chosen market. A broker might have an offer memorandum, part of the marketing package that will include a lot of information on the market. So offer memorandums are very, very good things to to use and look into when you are researching a market. Sometimes those packages also include appraisals, which even have a lot of granular information in them. I'd like to share with you that I am a strong believer of keeping up to date with the business community and what's going on in the market. One way to do that is to join the local business newspaper. A lot of those newspapers now offer an online platform which you can sign up to. Typically, it might cost you like, I don't know, 60 or 80 bucks or even $100, depends on the newspaper per year just to sign up. And you will be receiving newsletters by email on a weekly basis with the different kind of categories that you choose. For example, the business news, which businesses are moving to town, which are expanding, what banks are merging, which ones are closing. And there's also a real estate section over there. The real estate section in those publications are a great source of information. You can see what developers are doing. You can see who are the active players in the game. And above all, you can see what things are selling for. So often I see that there are some communities which are selling. For example, a community sold for $45,000 per door. And I use that as a reference, and I file it up. I take a screenshot of the specific article when I can see it online, and I can refer back to that. So we had a negotiation on a building not so long ago, and I could have used that. I used that as a reference with the seller. It was an off-market deal, stating to them why that community that sold for $45 per door was actually superior than theirs. That's because they had greater amenities. For example, they had a pool, they had a dog park, they had a clubhouse, while his one, for example, didn't. So you can also use that to say things like, I know this as a comparable. This property sold for a lower price because there were issues in it. And it's just a very good insight into the market. Also as a point of conversation with brokers when you talk to them. You can refer to those sales. You can form the relationship. They can see that you know what's going on in the market. Very, very, very important. Very important to choose a market which is a landlord-friendly market. We like to invest in the market when they are more pro-landlord than pro-tenants. For example, you have markets like Texas, Florida, Georgia, which are landlord-friendly, in opposed to California, Oregon, and New Jersey, which are more tenant-friendly. In a landlord-friendly market, you're able to evict much quicker. You'll be able to evict maybe within 15 to 30 days, depending on the market. And you increase the rents whenever you want. Thank you very much. Which within reason, of course. In some of the more tenant-friendly market, you will be struggling to evict, or you will have like 90 days to evict. And of course, some of those markets have rent controls and various other restrictions and things which make it a little bit more tough. So two websites to keep up to date and get informed about the markets. You can compare the specific markets is rentcaf.com. Great market with the interactive map that will show you what the market and what are the rules and regulation in the market. And another one is a good website is Landlordology /state laws. That's a great market. The last point I would like to share with you about when we're researching and choosing a market is a point about commuting to the market. You need to decide and be prepared to commute to the market. Of course, if you are in the States, you need to decide if you want a market that you can drive to or a market that you need to fly to. And if you need to fly, does it have a stopover or do you need to do one or two stopovers? And how long will be the drive if it's a drive? Because America is a big city, a big country. For me, I can tell you that I need to take usually 3 flights to get into the market. The longest flight takes about 14 hours. That's from Auckland to Houston. And I do that about twice a year. Very, very important part to mention that to you, because if I can do that, you can also do that, and you can make it happen. You need to choose a market that works well for you. In saying that, if you can find a market which you can drive to, and it's within, let's say, 3 or 4 or 5 hours away, that's ideal. Very, 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 very good. Okay, let's move on to building your team. I'm conscious of the time, so I'm going a little bit fast. You will always be able to watch the recording, and I just want to make sure I cover all this information because I have quite a few things to share with you today. So, real estate investing is a team sport. When you decide and you've chosen a market, you got the good fundamentals, you know that the market is good, and you could start investing and you can start building those teams. You need to be committed to visiting the market regularly, networking with investors, brokers, lenders, and of course, seek referrals from every one of them to refer you to different professionals within the industry. Real estate is a relationship-based business. It's a lot about who you know and the relationship you have with people. And people like to do business with people that they like. You need to be prepared to visit the market at least every 3 months. At least every 3 months if you've chosen the market and you keep looking. Of course, if you find the deal, you can drive there when you need to if you're close by. And if you live not so far from the market, you can also visit the market regularly to create those substantial relationships. If you are out of the US, in the beginning, until you have your boots on the ground and teams set in place, you need to be prepared to visit at least twice a year. So when you chosen your market, you need to be in a position that you integrating with the business community of the real estate community and with fellow investors. I'm creating meetups in my market. Every time I visit my market, I create a meetup, and I meet with fellow investors and friends. Maybe we book a place in a restaurant, we go in, we have a few drinks, have something to eat, a talk shop, and we do that at least once or twice when I'm there. I mean, I'm going there for a few weeks, so I will do it at least once a week. As a person who investing out of state within the US, I would strongly recommend to you to create a meetup, whether you go first to the local area and then branch out to create a multifamily meetup, or whether you just join the local area meetups for starting point. That's a good start. Creating a meetup will allow you to become integrated in the real estate community, and also become somewhat of a thought leader. If you get yourself educated and you're able to do presentations and you're able to invite other speakers, you will be able to basically mix and start growing your base of relationship, which will allow you to grow your business. And a lot of opportunities comes through relationship in this business. When I visit my markets, I basically arrive to the market. I do a lot of driving for dollars all day, basically from 8 o'clock in the morning to 7 at night. I'm sitting in the car. My itinerary is pretty much back-to-back meetings, whether it's lunch with brokers or other fellow investors, meeting with lenders, doing a drive-by. I often have a drive-by list, which I created before I came to the market, because there was a lot of those properties which I looked at while I was analyzing deals, underwriting, looking at offer memorandums. Perhaps those properties I did not end up buying, but I would like to drive by and familiarize myself with them. So having a drive-by list is very, very important as well. Property manager is your number one team member. Leverage their local knowledge and expertise. Property manager will be a great source to share with you which areas are good and which area you should stay away from. Another great way to establish the area in terms of the crime in the area is the Trulia crime heat map. You can jump on Trulia, you can put the address, and you will see the color changes. So an area that has more crime will be dark blue, and an area that has less crime will be white or just light blue if it's very low crime or just small things. So that's definitely something that I'm checking all the time. Very, very important to check that. It used to be green and red, but recently they changed it. I think quite a while ago, actually. So this, I would not buy an area in a war zone. You know a war zone when you see that everything is blue. In saying that, a lot of the downtown area, which would not necessarily be a war zone, could have some crimes over there. It will show dark blue, but it's not a bad area. So certainly talk to your property manager regularly if you are considering investing in specific area. You can stabilize the market rent in your target areas. One of the ways I'm doing that is using a couple of websites. The first one is rentometer.com, which is a website that gives you numbers about the rent, the median rent, and the average rent. And another website is apartments.com. Apartment.com is a great website to use for that because it has a lot of photos, and you can actually see the property, the apartment community showcased over there. You can see a lot of information, while Rentometer doesn't have detailed information like apartment.com. We use apartment.com to research the rent comps when we looking on a deal, when we're doing the analyzing the rents and the potential market rents. We will be ringing them and find out, like a mystery shopper, if you like, if they offer any concessions, if the rents are including any of the utilities, and how many units they have available. And we ask them various questions like that to have a feel for the competition and what are they offering. A good property manager will be able to advise you on typical operating expenses in the market. This is a very, very important point. If you haven't written anything down, write this down to ask a property manager for a typical operating expenses. When you're analyzing a deal, you want to make sure that you are that you know what will be the typical operating expense per unit per year in that specific market, because a lot of the broker performance and the financials that we often receive from sellers are not accurate. More often than not, I see performers that state expenses per unit per year well below what they should be. For example, in my market, the expenses, I know that they are $3,500 per unit per year. And when you receive a pro forma from a broker or financials from a seller that says that it's about $2,000 per year, you know that they're possibly hiding a lot of the expenses from you, or just intermingle a lot of the expenses with another property. And you should not rely on that, because if you will get into the deal and find out that it's costing you much more to run it. Another way to find about the typical operating expenses, which you're going to use when you underwrite a deal, would be to ask that question also to a lender. A lot of the community banks and the local lender will be able to share that information with you, because they do underwriting of deals regularly, and they underwrite deals within their own criteria. So it will be good for you to know what do they plug in, what numbers they plug in to check the deal out when they're underwriting your deal. So that's very, very important to find out the operating expenses in your market, in your chosen market. We want to work with the property manager that is customer service focused. I always ask my property manager when I'm rehabbing, repositioning an asset, I'm asking them about what should we do? Should we do a granite benchtop over here? Do we need to do, for example, a dog park? Should we do a dog park and charge pet fees and a non-refundable pet fee and pet rent? Would that market take it? Or are we capped on the rent in that specific sub-market? We want to work with the with a property manager that is very making themselves available on the weekend, especially Saturdays for tenants. A lot of people cannot walk through rental properties while they work. So at least perhaps Saturdays for showing will be a good service to potential tenants. And we want to make sure they are very responsive. Responsive, I mean, when somebody is inquiring about the apartment for rent, you want the property manager to respond in a timely manner, specifically, preferably within half an hour or 15 minutes even, because there was a research that was done recently that indicated that potential tenant make appointment and go and look at properties and then lease them to those property managers and landlords, if you self-manage, that responded the fastest. So whether it's a text back confirming an appointment or whether it's a swift communication on the phone, this is very, very important. So you want to ask them about the processes with that when there is an inquiry coming for potential vacancy. You want to ask them as well about how they deal with the maintenance request. You want to know the process and how fast they process that and deal with that. This is customers, our tenants are our customers, and we want to be able to give them the best service we can in the fastest time frame. This is a small apartment building that I purchased last year. The reason I'm sharing that with you is because a lot of you might be just starting up, and I wanted to share with you that there's nothing wrong with starting up small. I'm not going to cover this to the extent that I was planning to because we kind of need to keep in time, but I would like to share with you that this particular property was an off-market opportunity that I got through direct mail marketing. The owner of this property was kind of getting towards retirement age. He got all the units were tenant and he wanted to start renovating them himself. He got really tired from the renovation. He didn't really do much. He just got bogged up. He just couldn't deal with it. So he responded for me quite straight away. My boots on the ground went to meet with them. So that's another point where you need to get your boots on the ground sorted once you choose the market. And we cover that in a little bit. My boots on the ground went in, signed the contract with him. After we did the walkthrough with FaceTime or WhatsApp, took some photos, and we established that there is an opportunity here because their price expectations weren't so high. Once we signed the agreement, I flew into the market. I never visit the property unless I'm there, of course, before it's under contract. That's the jobs of the boots on the ground. So when I flew into the market, we walked through the property again, took some more photos, and put up together a scope of work, which of course I consulted with my property manager as well. What kind of recommendation would they think? In this particular deal, we used some of the contractors that the property manager could refer me to. This is great because if the property manager that you're choosing to use able to share with you their vetted contractor, it will save you a lot of time and headaches. And those people already got a relationship with them, and they've been working with them for a while. So in that particular case, the roofer and the plumber and a few other contractors were referred by the property manager. I usually do the 3-step management plan, which is coming in the beginning, coming in the middle, and towards the end before I pay the final invoices. It's very, very important to communicate regularly with your boots on the ground and your property manager, whoever is managing your project for you. We do at least weekly calls, once a week, photos, walkthrough to discuss anything that needs to be addressed. In these days with the technology, it's absolutely great. We can send voice messages with WhatsApp and do FaceTime, which is awesome. Last point about property managers is that property manager, sometimes it doesn't happen so often, but they connect you with owners who would consider selling. They might have some landlords that would consider selling off market, and you can just discuss it with them and perhaps get an off market deal if the property manager give you heads up on that particular opportunity. Here you can see that we like to stage the apartments when they're ready for rent. I did all of those furnitures that you see over there. It's all digital staging. So we take good professional photos and we digitally stage them with furnitures. And even here in the kitchen, the coffee machine, the toaster oven, and the oranges are all digital staging. I'm not going to cover this section in depth. I'm just going to say that I bought that property for cash. And then because I wanted to exit the money fast, I did not wait over the 6 months seasoning that bank requires. I refinanced the property within 3 months and managed and pulled out the property, the cost of the whole cost, including purchase price and the repairs, pulled all the cash out. So I got no money in the deal, and it's generating $1,000 per month net of passive cash flow. I also like to brand the properties. All of my apartment buildings have a sign, like you see this one. It stands outside and it says Green Forest, townhomes with private courtyards. I think we're doing okay for time. Now we will cover a very, very important member of the team, real estate brokers. Broker relationship is a crucial part of this business. When we seek to start forming broker relationship in our chosen market, the best way, of course, is to receive some referrals. But on top of that, we can use LoopNet. People say that LoopNet is the website where a lot of property go to die, but that's not necessarily the case. You can use LoopNet to find brokers who list on LoopNet. The deals that they already listed, there might be deals that they already shopped out to the handful of investors that they know very well and have relationship with, but that's a starting point. So again, broker relationship, LoopNet, get referrals, and ask lenders. Lenders know who are active brokers in the market. So it's a very good opportunity to ask those lenders as well which one they could recommend and refer you to. It's always good to come through a referral from somebody else in opposed to getting a cold call. I established that in my market, and also through the experience of doing direct mail marketing and cold calling, I established that I need to have a local phone number. A lot of people in the US, they don't pick up the phone, whether it's brokers or whether it's sellers that you're calling through direct mail or to do a cold calling. So in the direct mail, you will leave your phone number. It's good to have a local number because in America, there is a lot of telemarketing. We're getting a lot of calls from people trying to solicit you to buy things. So often people don't pick up the phone. And I use the Magic Jack. Magic Jack, you can buy that on Best Buy. It's $40. Whether you're in the US or not, it's very handy. It goes on your app, on your phone, and you can use it really, really well. When you approaching brokers, you want to be able to speak the language. You really need to speak with them on the level of professional terminology. You want to be able to understand what they're saying and what, not just brokers, also lenders and anybody else in the industry. You want to know what NOI is, net operating income, cap rates, OPEX, which is operating expenses, CAPEX, which is capital expenditure, DCR, which is debt coverage ratio, and IO, which is interest only. You really want to make sure that you're familiarized with those terms and you can come across professionally and somebody who knows what they're talking about. I have a CRM system, which I put all the brokers in specific markets that I'm focusing on within the CRM, and I follow them up regularly on a monthly basis. So every month I will be, unless we communicate in between, I contact them and I say, hey, John, how is it going? Do you have anything in the pipeline that could meet my criteria? And we talk about some other things. Sometimes you call the brokers and they don't answer the phone because they're busy or maybe somewhere else. So I always text them after the phone call if I can't get hold of them. And I do that as well with cold calling. I text them. And if I don't get a response from that, I email. So very, very, very important. Let me tell you a quick story. When you meet a broker that you didn't know, and it happened to me recently, the brokers might just try you out. They might give you crap deals with that overpriced and just don't stack up. They're not going to give you the best deal at the front. So, for example, I got the deals from a broker a few months ago. It's a new broker that I got to know. And he brought me this property which had a good building, like 1970s, vintage, townhouse style. But the property was 50% vacant, which is a little bit more than what I prefer. But I still did look into it because it was significantly under rented. There was a good value add opportunity. Long story short, I wasn't able to figure out why those apartments wasn't filling up. They had the property for a while. They finished the repositioning a few months ago, and they just keep the vacancy. The vacancy was still going on and on and on. So I asked my property manager, what does he know about the property? If he heard about it, and what does he think about it? As usual, to get some feedback from it. And of course, good old property manager who is a local investor themselves. Kudos to Jamie Hoffman from the Hoffman team and David. They know the property. So he said to me, yeah, this property up to a few months ago, there was a murder on site, which was all over the news. And me being out of the state, did not know about it. So thank you for the property manager who explained to me why those units are not leasing up. There's a stigma, and the location wasn't exactly ideal. So I decided just to stay away from that particular property. Very important to know the zip codes in the area, because when you get a property, you will be able to put the zip code in and figure out about the area by knowing the zip codes. A good way to know zip codes is to ask the property manager, but also fellow investors. So when a broker sends me deal, find out the zip code that it's, for example, in a war zone, I tell them straight away, thank you, I'm not interested. And I documented all the zip codes. So I get one zip code and I got notes, another zip code and I got notes. Some zip codes in the US will be mixed. Some of them could be a good zip code in one part, and two, 3 blocks the other side will be a bad part that you don't want to invest. So it's very, very important to get some good feedback from local people, local investors, and the property manager. Take your potential broker for lunch or coffee. We go for lunch or coffee with the brokers regularly. We talk about things that are not necessarily real estate related, like sports, like fishing and hunting, about the kids sports, and all sorts of things, just to build the relationship of a personal relationship. Ask the brokers about questions which are to do with your market research. You want to make sure you support the market research from another angle, from another person. Very important thing with the brokers is always do what you're saying you're going to do. If you get the deal from a broker and you promise them and you told them that you're going to underwrite the deal and you're going to get back to them within a day or two, always do that. Never, what we say, mock them about or let them down by not coming back to them. They're waiting to hear from you. And if you promise you're going to do something, always do what you say you want to do with broker. Very, very important to keep the credibility and do what you said you're going to do. And give them feedback on your underwriting. For example, I got a deal from a broker that looked great, but once I've done the research, I found out that it's sitting on a floodplain. You can go on the FEMA website, and see that where the property, if it's sitting on a floodplain or not. That straight away was a no for me. And I told the broker, I'm sorry, but I like the numbers, I like the vintage, but I'm not buying on the floodplain. Again, you can say that there is not enough upside potential in the deal. If you looked at the deal and there's not enough upside potential, a lot of the deals those days, we see communities that being partly repositioned, up to about 60 or 70%. And all the meat is taken off the bone pretty much. There's not enough meat on the bone for us to come and do our value add and push the rents up and have enough meat on the bone. So this is the main reason that I miss properties, give up on properties and just not engaging in terms of even putting an offer, is if I see that there's not enough meat on the bone. And I say the cream is being taken off the top of the milk pretty much. Those are questions to ask brokers. I see that we got about 10 minutes left. So if you are interested about those questions, feel free to contact me after this presentation, and I can post it in the forum, or I can also share with you by email, no problem at all. Lenders. What is this? Yes. Mortgage brokers and local banks. The lending business is a relationship business. In the US, especially if you're not in the US, you need to realize that some of the banks, the community banks, they operate in specific areas. Some community banks will be working only in one state. Some of them will be only in one part of the state. So a lot of the decision in those community banks are made on within the bank, could be in the branch or could be through the committee within the branch. So very, very important to keep that in mind. Again, it's a relationship business. We like to form the relationship with the community banks as much as we do with brokers. We ask for term sheet from few banks when we looked at the funding opportunities, and we compare them before we commit. You will be dealing with community banks, but you can also deal with mortgage brokers in the US. So you might be dealing with a mortgage broker if you are expanding towards taking some agency debt, which is Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. Those are loans that you need to use brokers to obtain those loans, and often you're not able to use those Freddie and Fannie if your loans are small, for example, under $1 million, or if the asset has a high vacancy, agency debt is not going to be suitable. I submit a acquisition summary with lenders, which you can write it down now. Pretty much there's few parts to that. Property highlights, which includes the background of the property, the unit mix, and what upside we see in it. Location highlights, which is similar to what you see in offer memorandums that have like a map with pinpoints, and kind of what's the amenities around. The repositioning plan, which has a summary of the scope of work. The management plan, which will be if we want to implement RABs, which is rate your utility reimbursement service, that you reimburse the utility, and other fees. And we also write down the fundings that we wish to receive. So I go hard out. I said 15 balloon, amortization, 25 years, interest only, and a rate, interest rate that attractive, and we negotiate from there. And we also attach a pro forma with that. Your boots on the ground is a very, very important part of your team. Your closest team members will be could potentially be your property manager, your handyman, your business partner, or your project manager. Those are going to be one of your closest team member, and your boots on the ground. A lot of people, if you do off-market deals, are not able, for example, to sign contract electronically. Some people who are more elderly, they will want to go and see a paper contract to do that. Very, very important to have a mentor or a mastermind for education. It's going to be an important part of your growth. I started educating myself early at the beginning with the online community like Jake and Gino. They have a great videos and education platform, which I thoroughly enjoy and recommend. And will shorten your timelines, and you will be avoiding costly mistake if you get a lot of education at the front end. whether you invest passively or decide to go all out and build your own portfolio, getting education is very, very important. You can even join my mastermind group. We have the MIH mastermind. We have monthly meeting. We share our success and challenges, and I set you up with the action plan to move you forwards toward your goals. If you need help with underwriting and deal reviews to keep motivated and on track, I will keep you accountable, and we also communicate on a chat on regularly through the week. So we set you up with action plans that you could pursue during the month. A very important team member is an accountant. Accountant will introduce cost-saving strategies, bookkeeping if you need help, and implement cost segregations. This is the team members pyramid courtesy of Jake and Gino. At the bottom, you can see your contractor, your plumber, your carpenter, landscapers, and in the middle, professional teams. You have the title company, accountant, lawyer, mortgage brokers, and at the top, of course, your personal team, which will include your mentor, your coach, your family, and your mastermind group. Those are your criteria. You want to be able to define your investment criteria so you have a clear idea of what you're going to look for, and also share that with fellow investors and brokers. For example, I'm looking for 20 to 120 units. I like the unit mix to be a majority of 2 bedrooms in opposed to 1 bedrooms. I like to see a mix of 70 to 30%, so majority 2 bedroom. And I will be flexible on that though if there is more 1 bedroom in an area that is suitable for that. For example, a midtown area or urban core area that there is more kind of single people, young professional, maybe living alone. I like to see properties which are not older than 1960s, because older properties equal to high maintenance. We like to have washer and dryer hookups in the unit, and separate utility preferred. Underperforming property equals to value add. So we like to see property which are underperformed and mismanaged and need renovation. We like to see properties that had a minimum rent upside of 10%. We like to see loss to lease significant enough that allows us to push the rents up. And we don't like to see vacancies which are greater than 30%, although we will consider it. And I do not invest in war zones. So those criteria that you can share with your broker in an email, in a summary email after you had your first conversation. You should always send a follow-up email to that. Opportunities to increase income and decrease expenses equals to high NOI and better cash flow and high value. Negative gearing is the thing that we avoid. When the expenses exceeding your income. Environmental issues, we try to avoid them. And for the obvious reason, when you have environmental issue with the property, you will be in a position that if you have a fire on the property, you're not going to be able to rebuild it. If the land is contaminated, the city might ask you to dig the land out and replace it with the, with better building platform. If you had a dry cleaning nearby or on the land prior to you purchasing the property at some point, that could be a contaminated land. And if you had a gas station. So it's very important to have a phase 1 environmental assessment. We try to avoid structural problems because those takes time to deal with, and you need permits from the city. If you got good team on the ground, you can do it, but I wouldn't start from that. Always verify the market, your market research. Purchase properties on actual numbers and not on brokers' pro forma. Underwrite conservatively to stress test the asset. You want to make sure that you allow for higher vacancy, minimum 15%, especially now that the economy is doing good. We might see a contraction in the next couple of years. And you want to allow for that. We want to allow for an exit cap rate, whether you are exiting to sell or whether you're refinancing as well, more conservatives than the market cap rate. Walk through the units before you close the properties. Those things will keep you safe. You want to make sure that they're rent ready or at least in the same quality that you've seen it when you examine the property and walk through the unit before you confirm the deal. Go through the due diligence 3 stages. Financial due diligence, looking for the financial physical due diligence, going through the inspection, scoping the pipes, and legal due diligence, which will be your title and the surveyor, for example. Another important part is property taxes. You want to make sure that you are checking the property taxes. You call the tax assessor in the county or the city, and you find out what would be the taxes after you purchase the property. In some places like Texas, they could go significantly higher, and it will be a very expensive line item in your expenses, added to your expenses. In some places, it could only go by 10% per year. So if it was a $10,000 a year, it might go up for by $1,000. So here we are towards the end. I would like to share with you white paper reports that I have. Please email me on reports@mfiholding.com. Those reports include questions for loan officer, and the other report is how to identify an underperforming property. Again, you can email me on reports@mfiholding.com. Some people want it to happen, some wish it will happen, others make it happen. This quote is by Michael Jordan, one of the greatest basketball players of all time. If you want to get success and you want to build your own portfolio and achieve your goals and live the life of your dream by design, you need to make it happen. I invite you to contact me. Please, you can visit my website, mfiholding.com. You can see the tab which calls partners with us. If you click on that tab and you sign up through my every 2 months educational newsletters, you can stay in touch with what we are doing. You can learn through the process and potentially invest with us once we have a relationship in the future when there are good opportunities. I would like to invite you also to set up a strategy call with me, a strategy session. We can discuss opportunities if you would like to join my mastermind group, the Make It Happen mastermind group. We have a group starting in August, and we have four places left. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to ask questions, and I look forward to any questions.
Yes, we do have a couple of questions that have come in here, Hadar. So I'll just go down through the line here. We do have about 12 minutes left here. So if for some reason we don't get to one of your questions, Hadar's contact information is right there on the screen, and you can feel free to reach out to him, and he'll be glad to jump on a phone call, answer via email, however is the best way for you to be able to respond as well. So first question is here, how do you feel about the current market? Are you still looking to buy for the rest of 2019, and how have you adjusted your business given the current market conditions?
Great questions. I feel that the market is pretty much towards the peak. We can already see sign of some concessions with the building industry, like I mentioned earlier in the presentation. I feel that sellers' price expectations are still very high. And I'm certainly going to grow my portfolio this year and buy opportunities when they're available. I'm just underwriting more conservatively, like I mentioned in the presentation.
Great. Next question here is, what's the typical DSCR ratio that a bank would like to see that you're seeing right now to fund the multifamily commercial properties?
Typically, they want to see over 1.25, which is the debt cover ratio that most banks want. I like to keep my ones a bit higher. I like to see at least 1.4, 1.35. Once the asset is repositioned, we will be way above that. But 1.25 is the minimum that most community banks at the moment want. I know that some agency debt with the Freddie and Fannie in the top markets, they might go a little bit lower, but you need to ask a broker about that. Could be specific to a specific market.
And what are some of the items that you request from the seller when doing your full due diligence on a property? What do you ask them to provide?
Thank you. Great question. So I do have a long list of due diligence items, but the main ones are trailing 12, which is the trailing 12 months of the property. If you don't know what the trailing 12 is, it's pretty much a document that has January, February, March, all the way to December, that shows the rent coming in and the expenses coming out. And then it has a summary sum on the top. So trailing 12 months of income and expenses, that's the first document. I would like to see profit and loss. For example, if I'm doing a deal now, I will ask 2017, 2018, and even year to date, because we're already 6 months within 2019. So that's the third document. We had T12, we had the profit and loss. And then I want to see as well the rent roll. Rent roll will show you the units, and you will see each unit with the name of the tenant, what rent they're getting. It will also have the square footage of the unit, and it should have some more information about if there are any concessions, if there are delinquencies. But you want to make sure that the income that you see on the rent roll is actual, what we say, economic occupancy, that those rents are paying, in opposed to seeing the rents over there or the tenant is listed there, but it's not really paying the rent. So it's just physical occupancy listed. So you want to do that. And a little bit in a later stage, once we see that the numbers are good, we also request the leases. So we do a lease audit. We look at all the leases, and we sit down with the property manager, and we ask them for delinquency report to see exactly who is paying, who is behind, and just to find out what's the deposit they paid and all that good information.
And where can I find, this is from April again, where can I find the typical cap rate for a particular market? What's the best way to find that?
The best way to find out is to talk to brokers in that particular market. You want to reach out to a broker in the market. Don't do just one, at least 3 or 4 even. Just ring them. If you're researching a market, have a chat to them, and then get into the point and ask them if what do they see in the market, C or B type asset are selling for. It's to do with the particularly type of the property, but it's also to do with the submarkets. So when you go and you say Dallas as a whole, for example, I know there's a lot of people who invest in Dallas, so I use that as an example. It's a big market. So Dallas as a whole will have a different market in different corners of the city. So you really want to be able to ask that question specifically.
And the last question here is from Tony, and he's asking, what type of entity do you set up in the U.S. and your home country?
Good question. So I'm an American citizen, so it's a little bit different if we have anybody on the show here on the call that is not a U.S. citizen living in another country. But me personally, I have an LLC which owns the properties in the U.S. And in New Zealand, there are different entities which own my New Zealand portfolio. Of course, New Zealand and the US have a tax treaty, so we have to declare the worldwide income. And I have actually 3 CPAs working for me. I have one in the US, I have one in New Zealand, which is my long-term CPA, the one who does all my returns. And I have another CPA in New Zealand who is specializing in the New Zealand and the US tax treaty. So take all the incomes together and create the financial statement. In New Zealand, personally, I use trusts, and that is because of the rules over there. There's some asset protection and also tax benefits for owning in a trust in New Zealand.
Great. Well, there's no more questions that have come through here right now, Hadar. I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your Friday morning. I know it's Thursday afternoon here, but your Friday morning there in New Zealand and providing a lot of this great information. Looking forward to continuing to follow you. And for those of you who want to reach out to Hadar, his information, hopefully you've jotted it down there. And we really do appreciate you being here with us, Hadar.
Thank you for the opportunity, and good to see you again. I hope to see you soon, Dan.
Yep, you as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Let me stop the